Welcome to Like Love Stories. We are going to help you connect the dots from like to love and all the things that you go through on that journey.
Now, we are here to share stories of modern love, dating, relationships, and the beautiful magic of real human connections, and why like love is changing the game.
I'm Kristina.
And I'm Jon, and we're good friends.
With great stories that I think you're going to like.
I think you're going to love.
Welcome to Like Love Stories. I'm Kristina.
And I'm Jon. We're good friends.
With great stories. And today we are going to dive into some really fun topics. We're going to talk about some kind of odd trends in dating.
Yeah.
And some, common challenges I know many of you have experienced or are experiencing right now. And we're also going to tap into our favorite celebrity couples.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're hitting the pitfalls. We're going to ask each other questions about our dating experiences.
And
I'm
he
so
does
excited.
not know what I'm going to ask him.
Well, I won't let you know what I'm going to ask you either. No.
Well, let's get started.
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. So I've got to say, there's some real pitfalls right now in modern dating.
There
real
are.
pitfalls, and I feel like they all have a hashtag, right?
Totally.
They all have
gosh.
a hashtag. The first one is, and I'm just jumping right to it, breadcrumbing. Breadcrumbing. I had to look this up. Okay, so explain breadcrumbing.
I have experienced this so many times. I hate it. So, you meet somebody, and especially with online dating, this is just one of the many pitfalls of online dating and not being able to meet someone face to face. So you start up this texting relationship, but it just goes on and on. And there's never a commitment to actually meet in person. It's just this pen pal that you have. I know so many people that are listening to this have experienced the exact same thing.
Yeah. So and I have been breadcrumbed before.
I bet.
It is the worst. You just feel like the other person is bored.
Yes.
And they're probably talking to multiple other people, and you're just in the rotation of being talked to.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be a little demoralizing. So from a woman's perspective, what do you do when someone's breadcrumbing you?
Yeah. I mean, just like everybody else, I fell for it a few times, didn't quite understand what was happening. But then I just got really intentional. And, if I connected with somebody who I thought, okay, we've got some things in common, we've had, a couple back and forth, I get right to when would you like to meet? When do you want to have a cup of coffee? Yeah. When do you want to go for a drink? Whatever it is, I want to do it within that first week. If it's not going to happen then, I move on. I'm done.
Right.
I just move on.
Right. Well, it's from a man's perspective, okay? From me, I know a lot of times guys are breadcrumbing because they're just a little bit intimidated. They're a little bit scared to actually ask hey, let's do it. But the truth is if a guy is too scared to ask you out and he's just excited you're talking to him, he's like, oh my goodness, I'm dating up right now.
Yeah.
That's not the guy you want to date anyways.
Right. And I would say I think that's a good point. But at the same time, somebody that's a little hesitant, if it's me and I'm talking to somebody who's a bit hesitant, I'm not hesitant. So I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to make it easy for you. When do you want to go out?
Right.
Let's meet and see if we have a connection,
Right. I feel like that would be hard for a lot of women, though, to be like, okay, come on. Let's just go on a date. Yeah,
some girls really do want the guy to take the lead.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that? Do you like to take the lead or do you like to sit back?
I have to.
Okay.
And this is the reason I'm very intentional when it comes to dating, right? Very intentional. There's a purpose. I'm not just here to waste time.
Yeah.
I want to get to know somebody. I love love. I am a hopeless romantic. I've got 7 sisters, so I was raised on all of the romance stuff and everything. And so for me, I'm very intentional about dating. So I'm pretty direct and pretty open, and I will say, hey, let's go out, right?
Yeah.
The reason I'm able to do that is I don't tie my ego into it. And so many guys tie their egos into will she or won't she?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. She may not like something small about you, nothing you can change. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then you can maybe make a connection with someone else.
Yeah. And I think along with breadcrumbing comes a point you made earlier about guys having a few different girls chatting at the same time.
Yep.
And I think that leads to breadcrumbing, right? Because you can't figure out which girl you're going to meet and you're always waiting for that next best thing.
Right.
And I think that's another big
it's such a problem with the
point.
apps.
Yes.
Such a problem. Okay, breadcrumbing. That one is really interesting. What about the ghosting? Have you ever been ghosted? after a date?
Yes. Well, listen to this one. This is like my worst, for me anyways, my worst ghosting story is I chatted with this guy for a few days, you know. We agreed to have dinner at a great spot not far from me. It was actually one of my favorite restaurants. And we actually messaged an hour before the date. And I got there and I sat at the bar, you know, texted him, said, I'm sitting at the bar, whatever. And he never showed. And that was like that was in-person ghosting, but like I had never had that happen before. So I had a nice dinner and a couple glasses of wine by myself.
And a great story. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible to get ghosted. No one likes that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
I've not been ghosted that way. I've been ghosted after a date, right? Okay. Like they just cut it off, and it does leave you with like this, like, what did happen? What did I do wrong? Like there's nothing there, right? And so even I felt so bad on the apps, right? And I felt so bad if I was like, I don't really feel like there's a connection. And a lot of times you just like, you know, you just get rid of the connection, right? Like you don't even tell them anything.
Yeah.
I would, if I've been talking to someone, even on the apps, I would reach back out and be like, hey, you seem lovely.
Yes.
I just don't feel like there's a connection here, but I wish you all the best. And that women would write back and be like, oh my goodness.
Thank you for just telling me.
Yeah, just closing the loop on it,
Absolutely.
right?
Like I mean, sometimes I would be disappointed, but like I would not get offended by that because I would just appreciate the communication.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of wondering. This
is
no fun.
What else we got?
We've got, my goodness. Okay, one of my favorite things to make fun of.
Yes.
And we have all paid the price on this, is the highlighted profile, the highly manicured, perfected profile.
Oh my gosh.
With I mean,
it can mean so many things.
So many things. Okay, so you've seen the profiles. Yeah. You see the guy, and normally it's the guys, they've got a big fish, right? Or they've got a puppy, or they've got something else. I mean, what does that tell you about a person when they've got this highly manicured profile?
Yeah. I've had a few different experiences with that, but I would say, I mean, the most prominent was the catfishing and the fake profiles. And I just got really good. I was like a FBI investigator at the end of my, you know, dating experience before I met Matt. But like, if you do, like I would take those images that look a little too perfect and put them into Google image search and look for them. And you'll pretty quickly find that often it's not a real person.
Yeah. Have you ever been catfished? Someone showed up and you're like, oh, that picture was certainly taken 10 years ago, right?
So many times.
Yeah.
Like, you know, 100 pounds ago, a foot shorter than what was indicated in the profile, you know, I mean, all kinds of things. What about you?
Yes, I have been catfished. I've absolutely been catfished. And I had one time showed up to a date and I did not even recognize the person. I was like, oh my goodness, this is, and you're not going to ever trust that person.
No,
right?
And the gig is up when you meet them. So I don't know why anybody isn't completely accurate in their profile because the gig is up when you meet.
Now, I had a friend, she's tough on me. I'd been in a relationship for a while and got out and started dating, and she was tough on me. She's like, listen, Jon, this is what you have to do. They have to have certain pictures. They have to have a full body picture. And I was like, I'm not that. And she's like, no, you have to.
Yeah.
Like, okay. It's coming from a woman. And then she's also, they have to have a full smile picture. And I was like, what do you mean a full smile picture? And she's like, lot of people are like missing teeth. So you have to have a full smile picture, which I thought was so odd. But then when I, you know, went through all the profiles, I was like, I absolutely have to. I have to know what it is. But it's so brutal.
Oh, no, listen. You just like led me to something.
Please.
Because we are talking about pop culture a little today. So I watched the most recent episode of Married at First Sight.
Yeah.
And this very attractive girl who, you know, was super clear about what she was looking for, right? And one of the things was like almost like, you know, second to nothing is a good smile, like a really nice teeth. That was like a hot button for her. She wanted a guy with really great teeth and a really great smile. Now, secondarily, she wanted somebody who loved country music, who was like at least 6 foot tall, very fit because she was into fitness and, you know, all that stuff. So fast forward, you know, she's walking down the aisle to meet the guy she's about to marry. He has the worst teeth I've ever seen in my life. Like they couldn't get much worse. And he's like 5'6", you know? And so I agree with the whole smile thing because she ended up running off the show. She like got divorced. They never even went on with the series. She just left. But it was the teeth. That was her thing.
Wow. You know, it is really interesting with all the profiles because people can set up something different, right?
Yeah.
Like they're showing everybody something different,
Sure.
lying about their height or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then you show up and you're like, well, that wasn't what
I know. That's not what
I
I
was
signed
planning.
up
That's
for.
not what so
Yeah.
it's almost like a waste of time. But I have to ask though, with these highly manicured profiles, all but put together, they're just a specific way. What I've found was oftentimes when people have it too highly manicured, they just continue to stay dating because that's what they do. That's all they do. So have you seen that from a woman's perspective? Have you seen it where a woman she's got the perfectly manicured profile, and that just becomes like her personality as she's
I think what one of the challenges with that is just like authenticity, right? Like who are you really beyond those beautiful photos and potentially filters, you know?
Yeah.
Who are you really? Like I always recommend that for anyone, man or woman, who's doing a profile, have it be a little bit of like reflection of who you are, you know, the things that you like to do, the places you like to go, like, you know what I mean? Have it be really authentic and, you know, organically you. And so I'm not a big fan of the overly manicured.
No.
You know, I mean, it's great to have a professional photo, of course, but
good.
I think also being authentic is what people are looking for.
Well, and the apps, quite honestly, like, and after my last breakup, I got on the apps and I went through the apps and literally, and it was just after the breakup.
Yes.
Just a tender heart.
Yes.
And I was like, on everybody, I was like, well, I don't like the way she cut her hair. And I don't like that kind of a dog that she's saying. Like, you get sick of it because it's so inauthentic. But that's really what I do love about, like, love is it's authenticity from the beginning.
Totally.
Right?
Yes.
Authenticity verified from the beginning.
Yeah, we take it offline and get you in person as quick as we can so that you can see if there is somebody that you feel a spark with. And there's nothing better than that.
That is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Oh, I've been on a few of these, and I've promised not ever to date an influencer again. The influencer date.
Yes.
Right? The influencer date. Tell me about the influencer.
Well, I mean, I think there's more female influencers than men influencers. So I'm going to like put that back on you in a second. But I think you have to establish when you start seeing somebody, if they are an influencer, I think early on, establish whether you're okay with being part of her strategy.
Yes, it's a strategy.
Or like, are you guys going to agree to set some boundaries around your dating life and this getting to know you process not being online? But that's such a big thing now because let's face it, like influencers are everywhere talking about everything. And so I think people encounter this all the time. Men, I would say, even more so. I don't know what you think.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And it's fun to date an influencer, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of fun.
Oh, totally.
But I told one woman that I was dating, I was like, I feel like a handbag. I feel like I'm on your reels or on your stories and everything, like, hey,
As
this is my accessory, right?
Yes.
This isn't the guy I'm dating. This is an accessory. And that's the part I don't love so much. And there are, I guarantee phenomenal influencers out there who don't necessarily do that.
Yeah.
But there is a point where it's like, all right, there's a strategy to creating content and you kind of feel like a handbag.
Yeah, and I would say the other downside to that is when you break up or you stop seeing each other, then there's all these people
Everyone's involved.
Yes, everyone's got an opinion. Everyone wants to know what happened. And then like, there's that whole thing too. Have you had that?
I have had that many times, many times. And I was dating one girl once and we hit like a little bit of a rough patch and everything. Sure. And as an influencer, that being where she goes, the first thing she did was go to her stories and go talk about it. I'm like, this doesn't give us the breathing room to talk through the stuff to actually have a relationship, because now it's for everybody to view and to see and to judge. And I had people like texting me and everything. And it was like a minor issue that we were working through. Yeah. But that was content.
It became public.
Exactly.
Yeah, which makes it harder to work through.
Yeah. So hard. Yeah. And especially after a breakup.
I know.
I've gotten those messages from people that I've never met before.
How dare you? Did you break up with her? Did you break her heart? Yes.
I had one woman reach out to me after I'd broken up with an individual, a lovely person. Yeah. It wasn't right for us both. And she wrote to me, and I had never heard this quote because I had not watched Sex and the City, so I didn't know what it was. And she wrote me. I watched a few after to kind of understand it. She wrote me and she said, "I cursed the day you were born."
Yes.
And I was like, what is this? This is so Venus. But it wasn't.
No.
And it was you. I actually talked to you about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
Kristina, what is going on? I've never had someone say something so mean to me.
Yes.
And it wasn't mean. It's a funny part of a movie.
Yes.
But other people get involved when it's the influencer piece. So
Totally.
you gotta protect it, right?
Yeah, and like I said, you've got to talk about it right up front early on and establish an agreement and some boundaries. Yeah, totally.
So we love celebrities.
Oh my gosh.
We do love
I do.
influencers.
I love celebrities. Yeah.
You've got excellent opinions about celebrities. So I wanted to ask, who's your favorite celebrity couple?
Without a doubt, Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani.
Yeah.
I love them. I'm like Hoda on the Today Show. She's obsessed with them too. I'm also obsessed.
Tell me, what do you like about them, about like the relationship?
Well, this is a podcast about stories.
Yeah.
I love their story. Like they met on, what's the show? I'm like,
oh yeah,
right now.
the Voice.
The Voice, yes,
right.
hello. Anyways, they met on there. They were both going through a really terrible time with their, spouses at the time. They went through a divorce on that show together. And they started out as really good friends. So first colleagues that grew into a friendship where they leaned on each other when they were going through probably one of the most challenging, worst times of their life, a big breakup that's also public, and I just love that it started that way. And by the way, they're also kind of an unlikely couple.
So unlikely.
I mean,
I would never
she's
put them
so
together.
glamorous and so bougie. And he's like a redneck from Oklahoma. He's just so, and talk about authenticity.
Yeah.
He is the most, I think, authentic celebrity. Everything about him is just good old boy. And I feel like he screams protector, a real man's man. Totally opposite of her first husband, I would say too. But I just love that the way that story unfolded. And then they got married and are living happily ever after. I love seeing her on his ranch in Oklahoma, like in her stilettos. And,
right.
It's just, I think they're a really cool couple. How about you? Who's your favorite?
Okay, so I love Matthew McConaughey.
I know, I love him too.
He is amazing. I read his book, Green Lights. You recommended it to me,
Yes,
so I read it.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. So his story with him and Camilla Alves is like just a beautiful love.
It really is.
He's this amazing movie star. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
He meets her. And she just basically kind of turns him down, like, I'm not that interested.
Yeah,
sure,
she
I'll
was
hang
indifferent.
out. Yeah, she was indifferent to him. And
Yeah.
that's what I think really started this fun relationship for them. But my favorite story about them together is they'd been together for a little while. And then they decided, I think, that they were like buying a place or whatever. Then they lived in an Airstream on the beach for a few months. You have to be in love with a person to live in an Airstream together.
Big kudos to her for doing that. Like, I don't know, but yeah. I mean, and I think that actually, speaks volumes to why he loves her and why he was attracted to her. Like, she's that kind of girl that will do that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the celebrity love. Let's talk about Taylor.
I could talk for hours about Taylor Swift. I'm just so impressed with her. I love Taylor Swift. I really do. I think she's a powerhouse. I mean, what she has done the last couple of years, I mean, talk about her branding, the event performance, like the costumes. But I think for me, the biggest thing about Taylor Swift this year that I love to watch is the dads with their daughters who are singing like every word to every song.
Right.
I think she lifted little girls up, teenagers up, women up. Like, she did something I've never seen an artist do and attract like every generation.
She did.
And then her philanthropy. I mean, every city, the impact she had on every city she went to was just unbelievable. What do you love about Taylor Swift?
Okay,
or do you love Taylor Swift?
This is the thing. I actually really love Taylor Swift. And I'm going to tell you something that sounds like a red flag, but I actually think it's a green flag. Okay, so I got to explain. So Taylor Swift has dated a lot of great men. Yeah. Right? And it was kind of the joke, like, wow, it's like...
She can't keep a guy.
She can't keep a guy. She can't keep a guy, right? Yeah. And for a while, I was like, there must be something messed up with it. Like, there's got to be something there. And I'm sorry, Taylor, I love you. But the more that I see her with Travis, right?
I know.
I have to say that it's completely changed my shift or my view on what happened there.
Yeah.
Because instead of it being like, okay, she can't keep a guy, I think she just didn't want an inauthentic guy. Right. Not that all of them weren't wonderful guys, But Travis is so authentic and down to earth. I think that's what she needed, and she wasn't going to give up until she got that.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. He's another example of a real man's man. And, I think just like us, when you're going through the dating process, even though she's famous, which, of course makes it all that more challenging, but they weren't the right guys. Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? They probably didn't respect her. Yeah. They weren't loving. They didn't take the lead. Like whatever her list of must-haves were or non-negotiables, they didn't fit them. Just like what everybody else goes through. When you meet people, it doesn't mean they're horrible people or that she's a horrible person because it hasn't worked out or there's something wrong with her because she didn't find the right person. No. They just weren't her person.
Exactly. And that's what I think is so great about her story is she waited and went through, kissed some frogs until she found the one that was right for her.
And she wrote a few songs about the frogs.
Some great songs. Phenomenal songs. I love it.
Oh my gosh. What else we got?
Okay. So.
Oh, wait. One more thing about trends in dating.
Ooh, yes.
Yes. I, was, of course, on TikTok. Listening to a few dating stories, and I've just heard some really weird things about like odd trends in what people are looking for when they're dating. And one thing that I found was freak dating.
What's freak dating?
I know, exactly. Sounds a little sketchy.
It does sound sus.
So apparently, though, it's people who are looking for somebody that shares the same type of quirks or weird things, weird qualities that they have. Is that not so bizarre?
Wow. So do you like put in there like, I don't know, I'm into balloons or something?
I don't know.
Wow.
I know. So maybe for another episode, we're going to have to dive in and find some profiles.
Yes, that would be hilarious when we do that.
Have you noticed anything like unusual?
No, nothing too unusual. I know that, I will say this. So I did date a person whose friend was on a site and it was kink dating. So you would put in whatever your kink was, and then you would align with other people that had that same kink.
I guess there's someone for everyone.
There's someone for everyone, right? Absolutely. That would be hard for me.
I know. Yeah.
All right, Kristina. So this next part, I'm really interested to hear. We're going to do a little bit of questions back and forth.
Yeah.
Ask each other some questions. And I love your insights because your story to find Matt, your husband, who I love. Matt's amazing. Such an amazing human being. And you went on more than 50 dates, right? You got really intentional.
You lost count.
You got really intentionally like, all right, I'm not going to be going to dinners. I think we're doing coffee and then we're going to, so you have dated, you know what it's like out there. You've got some good stories, right? You've got some good stories. So I want to talk first. I want to ask you some questions about dating and relationships. Okay, so the first one here, what's your biggest ick?
Oh, my biggest ick. Okay, I would say my biggest ick, and I know all the ladies out there are going to agree with me, is when a guy wants to meet for the first time. Like, it doesn't have to be a dinner. For me, it didn't have to be a dinner or anything expensive. Yeah. But like, if we're going to go have coffee, I'm not going to like Joe's Diner. Like, we're going to go to a nice place to meet for coffee that has an environment that encourages a great conversation and experience, right? So I think and I had a couple experiences like that just completely turned me off I'm direct too. So if they, proposed a place that I looked up and thought, I really don't want to go there, that, by the way, first red flag. But then when I would propose something else, if they had a bad reaction to it, often they would call me out and say that I was a snob and all this stuff. I mean, we're talking about a coffee shop here. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was a big ick factor for me.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. I have to give the guys some advice on this. Okay?
Yes.
One thing that guys forget is that this is supposed to be fun.
Yes.
And one thing that women like to do is get ready, get dressed up, feel feminine, have a great time. So if they're like, yeah, I'm going to Joe's Diner, and that's not going to be fun to dress up for and have a fun time with, right?
Yeah.
So guys, if you are trying to ask someone out and you're inviting them to go to some place that is not going to be a fun place to go and dress up and have fun, pick somewhere else. It's that simple. It's that easy, right? Just pick somewhere else. Okay, that's a great hit. Okay, Kristina, what's the strangest place that you've ever been asked out?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't really have a lot of strange locations. I mean, one that was a little odd was to go for an ice cream, which it's not bad, but you know, it wasn't exciting to me to go for an ice cream. Like, I don't know, that wasn't like my idea. But I think you also have to read the room, understand the person, ask some questions, and kind of, like you said, understand like what would be fun for this person. And maybe an ice cream would be fun for some people. I just didn't get excited about it.
No, it's not fun.
So that was kind of a weird thing. One of the worst dates I ever had. I mean, we could do a whole episode on this, but we had been FaceTiming and like, you know, we had seen each other and talking, and he was a massage therapist working in Rocky Point for the winter.
Oh.
He came from the medical industry and sold practices and kind of was just on a hiatus from life a little bit and was kind of taking a detour doing this thing. And I had vetted him out. I Googled and his story was legit. And so he invited me to Rocky Point for the weekend. Big mistake. Oh my goodness. Never travel for a date. I mean, just don't do that. I mean, it was such a hard lesson to learn because I ended up driving home at like midnight. It was horrible.
From Mexico.
But like, we will have to have that on another episode. But yeah, it was horrible. Goodness. He was terrible. And I mean, talk about playing first date. Like, he had all these great friends there that were clients that I love. Some of them were Canadian. I'm Canadian. I hit it off. And they were all going to watch live music. And I was like, we should totally go. These people are a blast. We had spent the day at the beach and kind of connected with them. And he blew up through a total fit and was like, that's not what I want to do. I just want to stay home. And like, but all my fault. I should never have done that for like the first meeting. So, I mean, that was kind of a weird like location, but that was a mistake I made because disaster. So never have somebody travel a far distance to come and meet you for the first time, like across states. Don't you do it. And don't you do it either.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that's brutal. Now, with the dating that you've done, having found, like, I want to find my guy. Like, Matt is such an amazing guy. I want my woman version of Matt, right? That's what, he's amazing. So what would you give, or what is one piece of dating advice that you give your younger self?
My younger self. So Matt's not my first husband. So he's my third husband. So I've had some practice and made lots of mistakes. Don't be in a rush, take your time. This is not a marathon, take your time. And it's okay if it does take some time, I mean, women are getting married later and later. There's nothing wrong with that. Find who you are, establish yourself in your career, become the best version of yourself before you get really worried about getting married. You know what I mean?
Right.
But in finding that, ultimately, that amazing person, and I'm really lucky that I found Matt, but I worked hard at it.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a lot about that in future episodes, but I worked really hard to find him and I didn't give up. But don't be in a rush. Your person's out there. Like, I do feel like everyone has their person. It's just trying to find them. That's hard, and it's a journey. It's not a race for sure. So I would just say, be patient. Don't be in a hurry. And along the way, work on yourself so that when that person presents themselves to you, you are a great version of you and you attract that person into your life.
Yeah. I love that. That is such good advice from a male's perspective. Okay, because what you're saying is like, all right, slow is fast when it comes to love.
Yeah.
Right? Like, take it slow, and that's where you get to the...
Yes.
One thing that I see men do all the time, and at times I have been guilty of this, is putting someone on a pedestal that you're dating, right? The woman you're dating, the man you're dating, you put them on a pedestal, you treat them different, and then it doesn't work out because you're not treating them like a human.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, it all falls apart, right? And you had these unrealistic expectations, or they had these unrealistic expectations of who you were. Or if you'd taken your time, you would have been able to figure all of that out.
Yes.
And had some really good conversations, right?
Yes, 100%. I mean, when I met Matt, he really wasn't my type. And he cringes every time I say that because I tell people that all the time, I went on all those 50 plus first dates and he wasn't my typical type. But I just knew when we sat down for that first date that was supposed to just be a drink. It was Cinco de Mayo. It was just supposed to be a drink, and we stayed for 3 hours. And I walked out of there saying, oh my gosh, like totally not my type, really? But that was the best date I've ever had. And I honestly got in my car thinking, I don't know, this guy, like even that first night, I was like really pretty optimistic that I had potentially found my person, you know? Yeah, it was really amazing. It was really, really amazing. But even when we started dating, you know, we didn't get married for we've been together 7 years. You know, you're at my wedding. We just got married in October. Mm-hmm. We were not in a rush about getting married. It was never about getting married for us. Now, depending, you know, what age bracket you're in, and if you're looking to find your person and have kids, that's a little different. There's a time clock there. Right. But I was like in my mid-40s, and we had already had our kids. We weren't having any more. Mm-hmm. And so there was no rush to get married for me or for him. And it just took the pressure off both of us to just be. And like learn and grow together and do things together and travel together and have lots of experiences together. There was never like this deadline of marriage. Yeah. And so it happened really like by the time it happened, I was like, we should do this because it just makes sense. We've been together this long. And as you start to get older, you know, security and, you know, things become really important. And, you know, we did get married, but it wasn't like this crazy, oh my God, like, when are we getting married? I never felt like that, and neither did he. He would always tell me, when you're ready, I'm ready.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. But now, this is one that everyone wants to hear. What is a deal breaker that might surprise people?
Deal breaker. Okay, I'm going to be super honest, and there's going to be people who listen they're going to judge me, but I don't like cheap. Yeah. I mean, I think fiscally, financially responsible people are attractive, you know, but like, I don't like somebody who's cheap. You know, and especially when you first start dating. So I think that's really unattractive. Yeah. How about you? What's like the most unattractive thing?
I have to say, and this one has taken me some time to figure out, right? When it comes to a deal breaker, I have to say that the biggest deal breaker for me is someone who doesn't have enough self-love. They don't love themselves enough. Right?
What does that look like? Like when you've experienced someone like that?
Yeah, someone who is okay taking up space, having boundaries, they know who they are, but they're not, you know, of course, and the word is thrown around way too often, but narcissistic or anything like that. They just are comfortable with who they are, right? And they like themselves, they love themselves. Because what I've found is, if you date someone who doesn't love themselves enough, they will punish you for loving them.
Oh, right? Wow. I never really thought about it that way.
If they don't love themselves, they will punish you for loving them. Yeah. So as someone who has self-love, they love themselves, then they're really open and you can have a great relationship with them. So that would be mine.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, Jon, what's the weirdest compliment you've ever received? The weirdest.
The weirdest compliment. So I was in LA, I was dating in LA, and I was dating this girl, and we got on a few dates, and it was going really well. I really liked her. And she looks at me one day during a date. She looks at me, she's like, you know, I'm not really... like, you're not like the kind of guy I'm attracted to. Like, I'm not normally attracted to like you. I was like, oh, okay, well, where is this going? And she says, yeah, I'm not so attracted, but I think you could give me a blonde kid. A blonde kid. Now, it's LA, right? And every time I dated anyone in LA, right, they're within like the first 3 dates, they would say, hey, I need to have 2 kids in the next 3 years or 4 years. Like, they're planned out, right?
Really?
Like LA was crazy because they were all like, clock's ticking. I need to have 2 kids in the next 3 or 4 years. That's my plan. That's what we're doing. And she in a very real way said, yeah, I'm not really that attracted to you, but I think you give me a blonde kid. And I was like, this seems so weird. So the weirdest compliment I ever had was, I think you could give me a blonde kid.
That's so definitely odd.
So odd.
Okay, we were talking about, you know, guys. And, well, I was talking about guys' inability to plan a good date.
Yeah.
Tell me about, like, the best date you've ever planned.
Oh, I've got it worked out. And I'll tell you, I don't mean I've got it worked out in the sense of like a player sense. Like that is not it.
No.
But just how do you have a really rich experience where you can get to know each other before you want to have a next date, right? The next date. And so I live in Old Town Scottsdale, and there's this great restaurant / bar called the Beverly. right?
I love the Beverly.
The Beverly, it's amazing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right? And it's the end of Main Street, like the far end of Main Street. And so what I would do is I'd have it set up and I would get like a table in the lounge area so we could sit and have a conversation. Because at any point in time, I can pull the ripcord, right? So throughout the date, I can pull the ripcord at any
no
time.
Dinner at first.
Right.
Unless you both agree.
Unless you both agree. So you come together and you're like, oh, okay, well, we'll have dinner. And then you sit and you talk and everything. If the conversation goes well, what I do is then I'll be like, hey, let's go for a walk. Let's just walk, right? And there's all these art.
The art district.
Yes, the art district. So there's all of the art that's throughout there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to see what her opinions are on the different art. Not that she has to have like opinions that align with me, but I want to know that she like has thought about life and thought about art and thought about those pieces. Yeah. So then we'll go on this little walk, right? And we'll look at the art. And if she has nothing to say about the art, and this is boring, I know that that's where it's done, right?
Yeah.
That's where it's done. Not that she has to be an art aficionado, but has to have an opinion.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
and her opinion can't be just my opinion over and over again. That's boring.
Yeah. And even if she wasn't into art, like I feel like if I went on a walk with you and, we looked, I would have an opinion. Like I would, whether my thoughts were on the right track or not, I would definitely be attracted to certain things for certain reasons.
Exactly. Yeah. So then there's a great art walk. And then at the very end, like it's kind of this beautiful part of Main Street. There's a park there and there's bars and everything. So you can always, like throughout the day, you can either pull the ripcord or continue along.
Advance.
Exactly, right? So the best dates for me are you meet someone in person.
Yeah.
And then, you slightly grow a little bit more together. You slightly
come discovery.
A little bit of discovery.
Yeah.
And then you can pull the ripcord anytime if you have to feel like, oh, this is not going to work. Right?
I love it.
So
I love that. Okay. What's the worst piece of dating advice you've ever received?
I would have to say the worst piece of dating advice that's out there, that's out there. This isn't something that someone's told me, but that's out there. Is that this idea, and this is very red pill guy, is to make her doubt, right? To put in, like ignore her texts and do all that kind of stuff. I hate that garbage.
I know.
I hate that garbage.
It's like playing the game.
And I understand there are some people who will respond to it in that way, but those aren't the people that I would want to be with anyways.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, I try and keep it very authentic. I don't time my texts. I don't do anything like that.
Right.
I just want to keep it very authentic. I'm not playing a game. I want to get to know a person and see if we would get along.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
That leads me to another question. So when you first meet somebody, let's say you've had a date or two that have gone well. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about communication. So what's a turnoff from a guy's perspective when it comes to communication from the girl? Like what have you received that you're like, oh, I don't really like that?
Well, okay, so
that little giggle.
Yes, one time it was 1:30 in the morning. I was asleep, and I was dating this girl, it was another girl in LA, and she called me at 1:30 in the morning. Just out of nowhere, 1:30 in the morning, and I was like, this is like a work week, right? She called me, and I was like, hey, are you okay? And she'd had something happen to her family, not a huge tragedy, but something had happened to her family, and she called in the middle of the night to and we had not, it was probably like 2 dates, maybe 2 dates. And I was like, okay, that's too far, too soon, right?
Yes.
You can't call me in the middle of the night to tell me about something.
I'm not your emergency contact yet.
Exactly. Yes. You got to work into that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think it's jumping over steps in a relationship that it's shown in the communication where all of a sudden it's just too much, too quick, too soon. And I know that men do that with women, right? And I've seen that myself. But I think it really is from a guy's perspective. It's just, hey, let's build this together and get to know each other better. Yes. Don't jump rings on the ladder.
No, I love that point. Actually, is slower is sexy. Yeah. Honestly, because it takes a while to really get to know someone and understand them, and see if you are a good match. Right. It takes time. Right. So rushing the process is a mistake, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love it. Let me get one more question for you. What's the most unusual thing you've ever done to impress someone? It's a good one, right? I went to Spain
for her birthday.
That was a big grand gesture.
That was a big grand gesture. Yep. So she was having her birthday. She decided to go to Europe, and while she was in Europe, it was going to be her birthday. And I was trying to decide that summer. I was like, all right, I can either go to Australia for my like yearly trip, or I can go to Europe, right? Yeah. And she's like, I was like, I'm thinking about going through to both of them. I'm not sure which one. She's like, why don't you come to Europe and we'll hang out? And so we went and hang out. We hung out in Mallorca for her birthday, and it was beautiful. It was lovely. It was amazing. That was a grand gesture, and
and it was a great experience.
Great experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. How did that help or hinder the relationship when you got home?
Honestly, I think it was, now in retrospect, it was too much too soon.
Yeah, that's what I was just wondering. Like whenever you were describing, I was like, wow, that is like big.
Yeah, and I made the mistake. I was like, no, we're in love. This is going to be great. And my brain wasn't thinking as well, right? Like I wasn't thinking like, no, slow down. It's just been a few months.
Yeah.
Let her take her trip. Yeah. Go to Australia, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. No, I was like, I'm going to make a big grand gesture and I'm going to show up in Spain and we're going to have this amazing time. And it was. But I think it may have potentially hurt our relationship down the road.
Yeah. Well, this is the journey of dating, right? It's like all the lessons along the way, the hills and valleys and the joy of dating, and then the
lows.
The lows. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So I'm going to say, Kristina, we've talked about quite a bit. Quite a bit.
It's been so fun.
So what are your biggest thoughts on all this? I mean, we've talked about celebrities. We've talked about pitfalls, breadcrumbing. Yeah. We've talked about our own mistakes and wins.
Also, don't fly to Spain.
Don't fly to Spain.
Don't drive to Rocky Point.
Don't drive to Mexico.
No, limit the grand gestures in the beginning.
Earn the grand gestures.
Yes.
Yeah, earn the grand gestures.
Don't be cheap.
Don't be cheap. Make it fun.
Make it fun. Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely. And slow is fast.
Slow is sexy.
Slow is sexy, even better.
Yeah,
I like that.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm Kristina.
And I'm Jon. And we're good friends.
With great stories that you'll like.
Oh, I think you're going to love.
See you next time.